what you'll find throughout the day, especially when it's warmer out during the summertime, this is starting to cool off because we're starting to get into the fall time, is you'll have kind of like a glass ceiling or a fake ceiling. That's that thermocline. They try it out, they'll go right into it and then they'll stop and go right back down. They'll determine that that little tiny bait is not worth getting warm. So I got one chasing me right now. Oh, I missed him. Frick. And I'm gonna check my bait in case he pantsed me. So he did pants me. So you'll feel that they'll short strike it. What you can do, again, is trim that bait up even more. It depends on what size bait are on. So smelt I showed you is tiny. Smelt in this lake get up to like 5 inches, I think, or something like that. And I'll talk about gear here in a second. Actually, while I'm sinking now, let's talk about gear. I'm using a Shimano Expride, and this is their medium, the 270 medium, which is meant for 5 to 10 pound line. I'm using 10 pound. I'm using 10 pound Cigar Blue Label. Now you can go down sizes. I like to use 10 pound because that way I don't have to change my leader very often, because they do have little microscopic teeth and big teeth, depending on how big the fish is, of course. This one's fired up. No! Oh, that fish was screaming up towards me and then changed his mind. Still messing with me. So this is the cat and mouse game. So I try to match the fish's speed as much as possible, unless I feel like he's fired up, and then I'll reel even faster away from him. Because what they want to do is they want to chase. But they want to be lazy. They want to like exert a little bit of energy and then bite it. That's it. So I got one coming up to me right now. That's him, that's me. And he changed his mind. There he is. Squeaker. That's why. So I'm using a rubberized net to help with the fish slime. And most of the time these hooks will pop right out, which is really nice. And my hands are wet. And I'm trying not to handle him as much as possible, but there he is. Back in he goes. So there's really no reason for those smaller ones to be out of the water for very long, especially with the warm water temp. My line's going back down, actually. And you can see that fish going back down, so he's perfectly fine. Now there is some question. I caught that fish super high up, so he actually had the chance to burp on the way up. What I'm gonna do probably at some point here is I'm gonna catch a fish really deep, and I'm gonna hold him at like between 50 and 30 feet down, and let him expel his gases. And that just helps with them being returned back, because that fish was undersized if I wanted to keep it anyways. Now, like I said, I'm trying to match the profile of these little tiny fish. If you have bigger fish in your lake, like Cisco's and alewives, this is the alewife bait that I sell. So I don't sell the jig head yet. I'm working on that, but this is a super glow grub tail, 6-inch, that works phenomenal. If you want to see one of those videos, I'll link those below as well. The biggest issue with this tungsten jig is it takes forever to sink down, but that's what they want to eat. I could put something on like a spoon or something really heavy. I just don't have as much success with a spoon. Don't know why. Come on. Got him. Bugger one. So there's him burping. That's him burping right there. So I'm gonna hold him here for a second. He wants to burp, and usually what happens after they burp is they run. So I will constantly adjust my drag depending on what the fish wants to do. If the fish wants to run, I'll let him run. That's what's great about spinning reels. You can do it with bait casters as well. This is a little bit heavier fish than the last one. But I'm gonna let him burp. And when they're done burping, they'll sometimes run and sometimes they'll turn right around. Sometimes you can spin their head back around. So right now this one's dogging me. I try not to reel while he's pulling. I'm using 15-pound Power Pro braid, which I'll leave the link for that below as well. And then a uni to uni knot, and I'm tying, this is probably a 12-foot leader that I have on here. Well, probably more than that. Probably like an 18-foot leader. I just do like 3 arm lengths, depending on your water clarity. And it's fluorocarbon just for the abrasion resistance against the teeth, and so they can't see it. Oh, this is a nice fish. That's a decent fish. Decent fish. So I'm going to show you guys this fish real quick, since it's a little bit bigger and I might bump him. I try to work on my fish on the side of the boat in the net, in the rubberized net, and I'll leave the link for this net below. I just got it. So I just lost my other one, flew out of my boat to the bottom of the lake. But most trout and salmonids, 10 seconds or less out of the water, max. 10 seconds or less. They have just fought for their life, and they have a lot of like lactic acid basically built up from fighting, and they don't have lungs like we do. So they can't hold their breath for a minute when they're done exercising, right? You would just pass out. So they don't have the ability to do that. Let me pull up this fish reel now and I'll show you. So there's a decent one right there. You just heard him burp. I like to grab him by the tail right underneath the belly, support him. Nice fat 22-incher going back down. He was fired up. And you can see him go back down on sonar right there. Oh, we just missed him. He just went out of the cone angle. So I adjusted my drag for that fish. Please, 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 if I was gonna tell you anything, make sure your drag's set. I just missed one. Talking to you guys. Got another one. And what will happen a lot of the times when you're jigging for lake trout is when remember I talked about the burping, is once you get one hooked up and catch it, so he just burped right there, so he wants to spin around and go back down. They will burp up everything they've been eating, which is all those pin smelt. So they're basically chumming the water for themselves. That will fire up even more fish and even call in more fish into the area. So I'm gonna hold him for a second, and I'm holding him with pressure on him, otherwise he's gonna pop off, obviously. I had another fish chase him up. So there's us at top, and there's a fish chasing us all the way up here. So I feel like he's burped enough. Let's get him up in the boat here. Not super big. I said he wasn't coming in the boat, but he was all wrapped up. So back in he goes. And what I'm doing right now is I'm checking my leader for any teeth marks or any ticks. So I was matching that fish's speed. He was coming in super hot. And that is the funnest way to catch them, is on the chase. So when they're chasing up, there's really no hook set. You just keep reeling and the hook will bury itself into its mouth. So I adjusted my drag for that fish. See right there, that's too loose. So you want to have your drag tight for the hook set and then loosen it when you catch the fish. If they want to run, if it's a bigger fish, obviously. So I'm staying above these fish. One of them sees me. Here he comes. There he is. So that one has not burped yet. There it goes. He is, when you have a sensitive rod like this, the Shimano Expride, you can feel that line raking against their teeth. Super nerve-wracking. You see him down there, little guy. And These are the bubbles I'm talking about. Those are the bubbles coming up right there. I think you guys can see those. Little guy. And I could unhook him just from the side of the boat, but it's easier just to net him, and out he goes. So I just trolled around and kind of found these fish. They seem to get stacked up in the deeper spots in the lakes before they start to spawn. So during the spawn, they will go up onto small rocky shoals, like 30, I've heard 200 feet or less. I mean, depending on the lake. This lake only gets to like 180 or 90 or something like that. Doesn't get super deep. And if you're not dialed in with at least your 2D, you should go do that somewhere. You should go somewhere where it's not super windy, and you should go tie on a really big jig or something really big and sink that down to the bottom and kind of get dialed in. Talking about gear a little bit, and I kind of got sidetracked there because I think there's fish on the screen. But Shimano Expride, you can use really cheap rods, especially if they are chasing, because the sensitivity doesn't matter when they're chasing. You just keep reeling, you see them on the sonar, you keep reeling until they bite it, and that rod will load up. I like a medium or medium heavy rod. I do not like heavy rods unless I'm going for a really big lake trout, obviously. You kind of have to match your fish and your line. Oh, he sees me. He sees me. Run, run, run. Two of them chasing me. Ooh, he missed it. Third one coming in right now. I got 3 of them 40 feet or less here. Pretty sure I got robbed. Nope, I got pantsed. So you want to get down there as soon as possible before they start going back down. So they don't like being up top. When the water's colder, they'll be kind of all over the water column, especially with ice fishing. They'll be bringing 2 feet of water if they want to be. So one of the things that they're trying to do here is they're chasing me. And if I feel like they've hit it and not pulled my plastic down, I will just dead stick it there and kind of let it drop. So they think they've stunned it and they want to come back and grab that falling bait. Very hard to see a falling bite unless they're super aggressive and they down hit it, but it does happen. So I'm up top, 1, 2 Lakers, and I got I don't know, half a dozen below me. Well, we got one screaming vertical for it. Oh, he missed it. Got him. And don't be scared to set and hook into them again. They have super hard mouths. There he is burping. Yeah, don't be scared of doing that. Especially with these small jigs, you're not going to get any punctures into the brain or anything like that. He is burping a bunch. There we go. He wants to make a run. I'll let him go. And so my drag was tight when I set the hook, when I was reeling. Loosen the drag immediately. I feel like you do not want your drag to slip when you're setting the hook. That's just, you're missing penetration with the hook. And these are super sharp little tiny hooks, of course, but. So there's the bait pinned right in the top of the mouth there. Back in he goes, he's fired up. So I kept matching that fish's speed all the way up until my rod just loaded. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do with that medium heavy rod. Or you want a rod that has a parabolic flex to it. I do have some rods with like super sensitive tip, like mainly for bass fishing. They're great for setting the hook. The problem after that is that tip really can't move fast enough or move enough to keep your line tight with those little death rolls that they do sometimes, especially after they burp. Ooh. He's gonna eat, come on. Set the hook into him. Chase me way, way up, guys. Way, way up. Holding him so he can burp. And so see that? I'm gonna back up here so you guys can see the rod tip, hopefully. Those little, well, these fish are small, but those little head shakes, your rod needs to absorb those because you can't react fast enough. I feel like this might be a bigger fish. I haven't moved, guys. I'm staying in the spot number 2 or 3 all day. Yes, that's my biggest fish ever. Oh, that's a toad, guys. That is a big one right there. Absolute Tankosaurus. 25.5 going back in the net. Biggest fish ever. And I'm gonna hold him here, and so I'm gonna hold him here. He had the chance to burp. He's still a little bit bloated. And I'll see if he actually wants to go or not. But you can tell from his anal parts there that he did not burp enough on the way up. So you can tell that he's still super buoyant, but we want to keep him in the water. One thing we can do is we can burp him. Which I'm not a big fan of. I'm not squeezing his internal organs. I'm just kind of pushing from the anal gland or the back pectoral fins up. So, and if he's not doing that, back down he goes. But there he is going back down. Got him, finally. Let him burp for a second. Chase it for over 100, from 100 feet all the way up to 25, all the way up to 40. So chase to 60 feet. That's another little fatso. There's another one, going right back down. Well, guys and girls, thank you very much for watching. If you found this video useful, make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, leave some comments below. This is the way that I like to fish, and that's why I'm teaching it to you guys. The chase is really, really super fun. Obviously, having them race to the top. You can pound bottom, do that kind of stuff too, but having them chase, having them go after you while you're going after them, is probably the coolest part. So, if you want to get your baits, like I said in the beginning of the video, there's a link right here and a link below, benditfishing.company.site. Visit that and place your order, and that will support the channel, and I'll release more videos because of that. And these baits work during ice fishing season as well. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys learned something.